Good morning. Welcome to GMA's Workplace Workshop. I'm Holly Smith with GMA. I hope everyone is staying safe and well during this time, and you're all adjusting to the changes in the way that we now work and live. Thank you for joining us this morning as we move our tradition of workplace workshops to a new digital format. We appreciate your flexibility. We're also holding a series of Teach Me Tuesday webinars on topics such as HR, sales, and productivity throughout the month of May. Visit our website at mygma.org for more information and to register to participate. I would like to say a big thank you to the sponsor of today's event, Truliant Federal Credit Union. Here to tell you a little more about them is Renee Shipko.
Thanks, Holly. Good morning on behalf of Truliant Federal Credit Union. I'm Renee Shipko, Community Engagement Manager for Truliant. These are different times for us and for you as well, but we are still open. Our locations are seeing individuals by appointment only, and we'd love to have you come by and think of Truliant for your financial needs. This morning, we're happy to present Dr. Daren Martin as part of the GMA Workplace Workshops. Dr. Martin is the CEO and founder of the Global Company Culture Association. He's also a keynote speaker and a best-selling author. His bestseller, A Company of Owners, has sparked positive change in companies around the world, and it's been called the best book since Good to Great, which is a big statement. That's a great book also. Dr. Martin's thought leadership and change strategies in transforming companies earned him the title, the Culture Architect. He acts as a trusted advisor to business leaders at companies ranging from Fortune 500 to small businesses to architect incredible company cultures, create momentum, and accelerate performance at every level. Dr. Martin loves traveling, reading, movies, laughing, and more. He lives in Dallas, Texas with his wife, Elise. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Daren Martin.
Hey, Dr. Daren Martin here. I am so excited that this day has finally come. We've been planning this for a long time, this training. Originally, as you know, I was supposed to be with you in person, but we came up with a great solution, and that is that we're doing this from a studio in Dallas, Texas, and you're going to get the same content and the same feel. So a couple of things, just technical things. Look down, I believe it is on the bottom right or bottom left of your screen. You can ask questions, you can make comments, you can interact with the whole experience, and those will either be answered live or we'll be answering those in a separate video that everybody who's tuning in today is going to get as well. So let's get started. So I know people talk about under-promising and over-delivering, and I think I hyped this course pretty highly, saying it's going to impact every single one of your relationships. It's going to have a profound impact in your influence on people, in the way you deal with personal relationships, work relationships. If you're in sales, it's going to benefit you in sales, and pretty much every kind of human interaction that you can imagine. Now, sounds like a tall order, but I really believe this model is what I call the matrix of human communication, that it is something that is actionable, is something you're gonna be able to put to immediate use. You're getting a quick hit version of it today, but you're gonna have all the content and what you're gonna need to put it into practice. So I've taught this in 2-day courses. I've taught it in 1.5-day courses. We're gonna get a quick hit 60-minute version of it today, but you're gonna walk away with the resources and tools that you need. So without further ado, let's jump in. One of my favorite quotes is, "The ability to deal with people is as purchasable a commodity as sugar or coffee, and I will pay more for that ability than any other under the sun." Who do you think said that? I know you can't respond. I'm just going to cut to the chase. John D. Rockefeller. John D. Rockefeller lived from the mid-'80s to the early 1800s into the early 1900s. And John D. Rockefeller was obviously just an incredible business person. He was the first American worth $1 billion. There was speculation he was the wealthiest person in the world at one point. He founded the Standard Oil Company, did all sorts of things to transform business. And so when someone like John D. Rockefeller says, hey, what we're about to look at today, the ability to deal with people is worth more than anything. I'll pay more money for that than anything else. Then I think that's pretty high regard. And I was first exposed to this model, it's been 10, 12 years ago. So a little bit of background. I have a PhD in psychology. I've been exposed to a lot of different models. I've taught a lot of different models. But when I became familiar with this one, it changed my world in such a profound way that I abandoned everything else and just started doing this. So it's a model called Social Styles. It's my business partner in Social Styles is Traycom, a phenomenal organization that if you ever want to do the training live at your place, you can also get the inventories that they'll send out. You can find out where you're going to kind of end up on this thing. But Traycom, a phenomenal resource. When I first became exposed to this model, I thought, wow, this is earth-shattering. And the more I was exposed to it, the more I used it, the better and better I got at it. So a couple of things to know about just the model in particular. First of all, it's behavior-based. Now, what does that mean? That means what we're going to talk about today, and you'll see it's a pretty simple grid, has nothing to do with personality. It has nothing to do with what's going on the inside of you, what your thoughts are, what your motives are, any of that. It's purely behavior-based. And what that means is we could follow you around all day with the video camera, record your behavior, and then we would be able to make some tallies and comments about where on this particular grid you're going to find yourself landing, because it would be based purely on observation, not on motive, not on intent, not on personality, and those kinds of things. So one of the things I love about this model, I say this all the time, I could teach it to a 12-year-old, I could teach it to you in 10 minutes, 15 minutes on a cocktail napkin. I've done that on plenty of plane trips when I'm sitting next to somebody who says they're going for a job interview, and I'll say, would you like to see something that might help you get that job? By the way, I've taught this for 7 years, last 7 years for KPMG, for all their advisory universities. I've taught it at Southwest Airlines. I've taught it multiple places, Holly Frontier. And it doesn't matter where I teach it, whether we're talking about executives in the C-suite or whether we're talking about the hardworking, as I call people closest to the valve. Maybe some of these people not even having like a high school education, but they're running, helping run the logistics of the company. And it's been valuable to all of them. So let's jump in. Y'all ready? Let's go. So it starts with a very simple line. And I'd like for you, since we're doing this, me in front of you, and I don't have my board and what I would normally have, I want you to play along at home. You're going to see the slide up, but it'll be fun if you also get out a piece of paper and a pen and just sort of draw this as we go. So the very first thing is the assertiveness scale. The assertiveness scale has to do with how you go about getting things done. And on the continuum of the assertiveness scale, you're going to lean towards one direction or the other. You're either going to be towards the ask assertive side, or you're going to be towards the tell assertive side. So let me characterize it like this. We're having coffee, we're having breakfast. Hopefully I'm going to get to do that with some of y'all at some point. But we're sitting around, we're having coffee, we're at our favorite little diner. An ask assertive person would say something like this to the server. Hey, can we get some more coffee over here when you get a chance, please? Right? It's got a tone to it. It's kind of sing-songy, sounds friendly. It's really more of a question than a statement. A tell assertive person would say something like this. Hey, we need some more coffee over here when you get a chance. So again, it's not polite or impolite, it's just different. And you can see already, though, the responses that might evoke depending on who the person is talking to. So you tend towards either ask assertive or tell assertive. So let me give you some of the characteristics real quick. Ask assertive people are less direct. They're quieter. They're slower, not mentally, they're slower in their speech pattern. They use fewer interruptions. If two ask assertive people are talking to each other, there's a pretty good chance that they're going to speak in paragraphs. So this person A says this, the other person lets them finish. Person B then gives their response, and person A lets them finish. And it's more of that kind of conversation. They use more questions. They are less confrontational. They're not in your face so much. They are more risk averse, and they like to take time to make decisions. So you'll know typically if you're dealing with an ask assertive person, if they say something like, hey, can I have a little bit to think about this? Or do you need a response right away? I'd really like to take my time. So assertiveness, ask assertive. The other side is, guess what? Completely different, the exact opposite of that. It is tell assertive. Tell assertive people are direct. They're louder. They're faster in their speech patterns. They use frequent interruptions. So if you think about two tell assertive people interacting with each other, they are constantly jumping into the conversation on top of the other person's sentence and statement, maybe halfway through, but they're interrupting. Although if you're dealing with two direct or two tell assertive people, they probably don't see it as interrupting. They probably see it as just a conversation. This is the way we talk. You know, we both just get in there and scatter shoot. They're more confrontational, and because of being more confrontational, they embrace risk and they're quicker with decisions. So a tell assertive person is ready to go. They'll say, hey, let's go. Yep, rock and roll. That's decision made. No, I don't need to think about it. Let's just roll. So ask assertive, tell assertive. Now, I want you to raise your hand at home. Can't see you. But if you believe you're more on the ask assertive side, raise your hand. If you believe, given the description, that you're probably more on the tell assertive side, raise your hand. Now, without knowing the numbers, I can feel pretty confident that about half the people that are watching this are on the ask assertive side, and about half are on the tell assertive side. How do I know that? Because this model that's been around longer than 40 years, TRACOM has profiled people all over the world, 19 different language groups, and it comes back with a pretty consistent pattern. Now, there's some variation, but for our purposes, we're going to say the 4 quadrants, when we get to those, are split up pretty evenly, 25%, 25%, 25%, 25%. So by the way, if you speak one of those languages really well, but you don't speak the other 3 very well, what percentage of the time are you going to be effective? 25% of the time. And who wants to be effective only 25% of the time? Funniest thing I ever heard, I was teaching a class and I had a young guy raise his hand and say, that would actually be awesome. I laughed so hard. He was implying, of course, that, well, if I could even be effective 25% of the time, I'd already be, leveling up here. Okay, so let's get to the next part. I want you to now draw a vertical line. So you drew a horizontal line, ask on one side, tell on the other side. I want you now to draw a vertical line. And at the top of that vertical line is going to be task, and at the bottom is going to be people. So when you look at it from a way you go about getting things done standpoint, or I'm sorry, not getting things done, but the way you like to organize your work day, you're either task first, people second, or you're people first, task second. So what do I mean by that? Picture yourself going to work on a Monday morning. You sit down and you start typing away, and 4 hours later you look up and go, oh, I probably need some human interaction. I should go say hi to somebody or maybe jump on a phone call. Is different from if you go to work on a Monday morning and at first you do all the people stuff. How was your weekend? Hey, so good to see you. Did y'all get to go on that trip you were talking about? What's going on? And then you go, oh, I should probably go get down to work, okay? So again, continuum. And let me just clarify that again, that when I say it's on a continuum, because one question that people almost always immediately ask is, well, what if you're both? You know, what if I'm ask and tell? What if I'm task and people? Well, you know, a lot of people, I mean, everybody actually in reality does both, okay? You're gonna do both. But the question is, how far on that continuum are you? So somebody, if we measured 100 of their behaviors and videotape that, and then we characterize it as ask or tell or task or people, then it could come out where it's 49 of one, and out of 100 interactions, 49 of one and 51 of the other, which would be right on the line, obviously. Some people, ask, tell, might end up 99, out of 100 interactions were tell, and only one was asked. That would be pretty hardcore the other direction, towards the tell side. So the other characterization for task and people makes a lot of sense, because it's called emotive or controlled. Emotive or controlled. So typically people that are task first, here's their breakdown. They're task first. Duh, that's the obvious one. They like facts and data. So they are the ones who want to talk in terms of, numbers and things to back up whatever you happen to be saying. They use fewer expressions. They use fewer gestures. They have a fairly flat tone of voice. They don't share emotions easily, especially not in the workplace. And consequently, they come off more formal. So think about someone comes in, you're in a meeting, the leader of the meeting comes in and says, okay, good to see everybody. Well, why don't we get started on the project? And Susie, could you give us an update on where we are with? It would come off that way, right? On the other hand, people who are people first are more emotive. They use lots of facial expression. They use lots of hand motions. They use a varied tone of voice. Consequently, they do share emotions more freely at work, and consequently, they come off as less formal. So, and you can probably guess which of these I lean towards just by this presentation. But people who end up on the people first side come off a lot less formal. So they would come into that meeting and go, hey, woo, man, it's Monday. Everybody excited? I'm ready to rock and roll. Let's get this project going. Hey, Susie, give us a quick update. More of that kind of style. So by the way, at this point in the presentation, you're probably doing a couple of things. One is you're thinking about yourself and evaluating where you fall on this continuum. And the other is that you're starting to go through a whole bunch of people in your head and going, ooh, oh, that makes sense over here. And when you do that, now you start to put the entire model in context, which I 100% want you doing. And it's going to take some practice to get really good at it. So I mentioned before we get into the quadrant breakdown, oh, by the way, if you are on the people side, if you think you're on the people side, right now, where you are at home, stand up. Just stand up. Okay, if you actually stood up, you probably are on the people side, okay? If you're on the task side, then you would be seated. So let's talk just briefly about the perceptions that people have, because it's going to factor in. So when we talk about ask and tell assertive people have a very particular kind of style that they like to work with. And they tend to view ask assertive people as too slow, too tedious. It's like waiting for paint to dry. Make up your mind already. Come on, let's go, let's go. Make a decision, let's make stuff happen. Ask assertive people, on the other hand, tend to view tell assertive people as way too frenetic. They're just like, you're just so bossy. You're such a, you're running off without a clear decision being made. You're always making just half-baked decisions, and you just come off as kind of arrogant and a little just like you're in charge of the world kind of thing. So you can see where that starts to create some friction, because that is happening in people just as an automatic, unconscious response. How quickly do we decide typically when we meet someone new whether we're going to like them or not? It happens like in 3 seconds. I mean, it's a lot of these kind of factors that we're talking about that really come into play for how people are going to respond to you. So ask tends to view tell assertive as too bossy. Tell assertive tends to view ask assertive people as being just too passive and just, not having their act together. Like maybe they're not that sharp, or maybe something, is just missing up there because they don't seem to be able to respond and act in a quick manner. And what we're going to see throughout the course of this is they're not better or worse, they're just different. When you get to task versus people and motive versus controlled, people wear the task people out. They get to work, they want to sit down, they want to do the job, they don't want a lot of small talk, they don't want to have a lot of personal interaction, they just want to get down to business. So they're ready to rock and roll. So they tend to view people, the emotive people, as kind of time wasters, too chit-chatty. I mean, they're just, all over the map. It's that kind of squirrel, situation. People first people tend to view task first people flat, less emotional, come off very serious, as boring. They think, oh my goodness, come on, is there a soul in there? Surely something's going on in there. You gotta, live a little, have a little expression, do something, get on, get on the program here. So you can see the gaps that occur even between people and task. So here's a quick test for you. Let's do this. You're at home, it's on a Saturday, and you are making a decision about how you're gonna spend the day. And you and your spouse, your significant other, have decided already we're going to get up, we're going to clean the house, and then we're going to go for a long walk and just enjoy the day. If you get up and the first thing you start thinking is, hey, it's a lot cooler this time of morning, maybe we should take the walk first and then we'll clean up when we come home. We can get to that later. You're probably a people first. You want the experience. A task first person might respond with, no, we said we were going to clean and then take a walk. And that's what I think we should do. Let's do it in the right order. I'll enjoy the walk a lot more if we get the place all where it needs to be. So big gaps in these expectations, and you can start to see probably where some of the conflict is coming from. So by the way, raise your hand, yes, really, if you've ever had the same conversation, argument with the same person 40 times and it ends up the same way every time. Not good. Raise your hand. Okay. We've all had that experience. We get in this loop and we think, oh, it's going to work out this time. They're going to finally understand. I'm going to be able to fully explain where I'm coming from on this, and they're going to have an aha moment. And it doesn't happen. Instead, you say this, the other person says that, you say this, they say that. It starts to heat up and escalate. And before you know it, it just comes off the rails and you delete each other on social media. That's kind of the modern day argument, if you will. So what's going on there? Well, it's the pattern that we're talking about. It's these trips and triggers that are taking place that have to do with the way you like to communicate and the gaps that there are with the way other people communicate. So the better we understand this, the more powerful we're going to be able to be in these arguments. You're going to, using this model, be able to get to a place where as that thing starts to devolve, you can catch it in midstream and make the correction that we're going to talk about to make, so that all of a sudden it gets back in a better direction again. Okay, so you've drawn 2 lines. That means there are 4 boxes. If you said you were ask and task, that means you're in the top left quadrant. If you said you were, top right quadrant, if you're looking at a piece of paper. If you said you were tell and task, then you're in the top right, left quadrant. I've got this all backwards. And if you said you were ask and people, you're going to be on the bottom left as you're looking at the piece of paper. And if you said you're tell and people, you're going to be in the bottom right quadrant of that. Guess what? Each of these have characterizations. So one of the other things I love about this model is that the language is so easy. Probably a lot of you have done DISC, you've done Myers-Briggs. They're great. I'm certified in all the tools. The thing about this one, though, that I particularly like is its language you can teach to a 10-year-old with some understanding. In fact, if I told you from a Myers-Briggs standpoint, oh, I'm an ENTJ, some of you watching this know what in the world that might be. A lot of you don't. And even if you've had it, you might have to do the brain calculations. What is it? But if I told you, hey, there are 4 kinds of people out there, 4 language groups: amiable, driver, expressive, analytical, then just the word itself, driver, that would give you a strong indication. Analytical, I bet this is a person who really likes to pay attention to facts and data and really likes to be meticulous in things. So you can see the simplicity of the model, and the reason that's so helpful is it'll be easy for you to teach it to somebody else, and it'll be easy for you to remember it. In fact, there was a University of Colorado study that showed that this model embeds itself much more deeply in organizations because it is so easy to understand and easy to grasp. I think my favorite models are the ones that are really robust. We could talk about this model. We're doing it for 60 minutes today. We could talk about it for 6 days and still develop new things off of it. But it could also be done in a simple, short fashion. So let's talk about these 4 different groups, these 4 different styles. Left, analytical. If you are analytical, then you're very much into facts and data. And by the way, a facts and data person will say something like this in a meeting: hey, I don't believe the data supports our moving forward with this decision. And then the other person would say, the feeling person would say, oh, my gut's telling me it's the right thing to do. And you can see the train wreck that that's heading for, because the facts and data person is looking at the feeling gut person going, you are an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about, right? So analyticals, they're really into facts and data. They're into completeness. They're into thoroughness and accuracy. And if they had a mantra, it would be something like, get it right. Get it right. So these are the measure twice, cut once folks. These are the ones that run spell check on their emails just to make sure that everything is in order. If you see a true analytical, if you see their office or their desk, it's probably very organized and put together, okay? It's probably very linearly laid out, and it's very together. So analyticals, by the way, they also want as much of the information as they can possibly get. So they want, if you've got a deadline and this is due, at 12 today, and it's 10 in the morning, and they say, hey, are you ready? Do you have it? You ready to go? Yeah, you said 12. I've got one more piece of information I'm trying to track down. Can I have till noon just to make sure? So they want to, like I said, measure twice, cut once. They're going to really do a deep dive. If you ask an analytical, are you 100% sure? They would never agree to that. Why? Because there's a 0.000019 chance that if Jupiter and Mars were to collide, that it would change my answer. So they really like precision. On the other side, the drivers, task, and they're very much on the tell. They're different in many different ways. They want results. They want efficiency. The shortest distance between 2 points is a line. Let's just get this thing across the finish line. They're 80%ers. And what does that mean? That means if they've got 80% of the information they need, they're going to make a decision and move on. All right, let's tuck that thing away and let's get rolling. Yep, we're going to hit it 3 days early. Let's go. We're close enough. Close enough. That's where they're measuring it, is, what's the likelihood of success? And if it's a high likelihood of success, they're going to go ahead and make the move, make the decision. If drivers had a mantra, it would be, get it right. Just get it, I'm sorry, not get it right, get it done. Like Larry the Cable Guy, right? Just get it done, make it happen. They're no nonsense. They're all about speed. They're all about efficiency and shortness, and we'll get into some of that. Expressives are the fun, the creative, the energy at work. They're the ones that are, the pranksters, and they're making everybody laugh and smile, or really irritating them, depending on where the person is on this other styles grid. They come up with a lot of ideas. They're really creative. So they'll be saying things like, hey, I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if, right? And they're doing the, pretty color things, not just the black and white courier kind of things. They want to have a good time. And their philosophy is, just because it's work doesn't mean it can't be fun. Doesn't mean we can't enjoy it. But these are your creative spark in an organization. They're constantly coming up with new ideas. Amiables. Amiables are all about relationships. They're about consensus. They're about collaboration. And if they had a mantra, it would be, let's do it together. If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together, kind of a thing. So they're very much about paying attention to other people and other people's feelings and what they may be sensing. They're the one that will say in a meeting, well, hold on, we haven't heard from Larry yet. Larry, you haven't spoken up. We'd love to have your opinion on this. The driver would walk out of that same meeting and somebody say, hey, we didn't hear from Larry. Well, so too bad, so sad. If Larry had wanted to speak up, he should have said something. He had his opportunity. I asked if anybody had any more comments or questions. So the amiables are the ones that are really sensitive. They're aware. They're watching out for people. They're the ones that will remember your birthday, do something really sweet for you. Amiables. So analyticals, drivers, expressives, and amiables. And as you can tell, they are very, very different in multiple ways. All right, so here's my story, okay? I want to tell this story because I think it really illustrates the model in a very profound way. So years ago, when I first went into advising companies, I got a call, got a job, was asked if I wanted to take a job as a change management guru, the person driving change management on an SAP implementation. I said, sure, that sounds great. They said it could be 7 days, it could turn into a month, and that sounded pretty good to me at the time. It actually, side note, ended up being a 10-year running contract with that company as we just really fell in love with each other and a lot of cool things happened. I got to that project and I started hearing rumors about a particular person that was senior on the project, and they had a nickname for him. The nickname was the Grizzly Bear, okay? The Bear. So they called him the Grizzly Bear because the Grizzly Bear would be in a meeting, and when something was said that he didn't like, the big Wolverine claws would come out, and he would stand up and get all bear-like and red-faced and start clawing and maiming and, just wreaking havoc. People were scared to death of this guy. They were petrified of him. In fact, he was probably one of the most intense people I've ever met and ever seen in a work setting. They had rules about the bear. Don't disturb the bear. Don't look at the bear. Don't poke to the bear. Don't talk to the bear. So it was a pretty interesting situation I was in because I had to deal with him on a regular basis. I'm running between the projects and the decision makers. I had not had styles at this point. So I would write an email to the bear, and it would say something like this. Hey, bear, hope you had a great weekend with your family. I don't know, hey, have y'all had a chance to go to that new park? It's really cool, so awesome. I highly recommend it. And boy, did you catch that game on Sunday? I can't believe they pulled it out last minute. Woohoo, I was so excited. Anyhow, hey, I wanted to run a few things by you. I was meeting with the team, and we were running some ideas around and kind of brainstorming. I wanted to include you in the brainstorming. So AJ said this, and then Raluca said, well, maybe this is more the way it is or the route we should go. And then Bobby threw in a different idea, but they all kind of worked together. And so we're trying to decide the best course of action. Thought you might have some input, want to jump in on the conversation. At any rate, have a great day. Love you. Hugs and kisses, Daren. Okay, that's an exaggeration, but not by much. So this bear would send me back an email, and it would be one word in the subject line. No. I would just melt down. I would go, what is going on here? Who does that? Who writes an email like that? That is so rude. That is so abrasive. And quite frankly, I don't know to this day if he was saying no to the idea or if he was probably just saying flat out no to me. I was nails on a chalkboard for this guy. So I looked at it. I thought, I've got a PhD in psychology. I've got this figured out. I know what's wrong here. He clearly had a bad childhood. And he needs somebody with big enough arms to get him around that bear and kind of love on him and help him have this breakthrough experience, right? I was going to kill him with what? Kindness, okay? Absolute worst move ever. So the next email I would write would be even nicer. By the way, I would lay awake in bed at 2 in the morning thinking I'm getting fired. The bear hates me. Why does the bear hate me? Everybody else seems to like me. Everybody tells me I'm doing a great job. He would see me coming down the hall. He would turn around and go the other direction. Now, question based on what you know so far, do you think the bear was laying awake at 2 in the morning worrying about whether he had hurt my feelings or not? Absolutely not. So then, aha moment. I had the consulting company that had signed me up for this job say, hey, we have this course we teach. It's called Social Styles. We'd like for you to be able to teach it, so you should take it. So I take it. I send off all my stuff for other people to chime in. I get my results back. 50% of the time, by the way, when you do the full profile, the way you would profile yourself, 50% of the time, it is different from the way other people profile you. In a behavior-based model, which do you think has more validity? The way you see yourself or the way other people see you? 100% the way they see you, because that's much more likely the case. So I get my results. I open it up. I know what I'm going to be. I'm going to be a driver. I own my own company. I'd work for myself. I've been told I could be a jerk to work for. I know I'm a driver. And all of a sudden, boom, the big reveal, amiable. And I just went, this is not right. I went to the teacher, hey, this is not right. This can't be right. And all she said to me was, just watch yourself. So I began to watch myself over the next couple of weeks. And what I discovered was I was a flat out amiable. I mean, there was a lot of, please, thank you, do you mind? Hey, if you mind, I can, maybe get somebody else. Hey, are you upset with me? You seemed a little thoughtful when we passed in the hallway, and, I just making sure I hadn't done anything to upset you. The other epiphany now was the bear is not a bear, he's a driver. And I had been speaking the wrong language to the driver. Language is a fascinating thing. I grew up in Bangkok, Thailand. I speak Thai. They say my Thai, pasatai chatlu, my Thai is fluent. They said, you sound like a Thai. Now my vocabulary is not near as big as I'd like for it to be, but evidently I communicate in a way that they feel like, oh, I'm talking to someone who is Thai. I guarantee you when I go to Thailand, I get off the plane, I have a fundamentally different experience from people who don't speak Thai. Why? Because people respond well to people who speak their language, who can speak in a way that they can understand them. So I realized I'd been speaking Thai to someone who is French. It was the complete wrong social styles language. So I made an about face. This is what I would do. I would send the bear an email and it would say something like this: planning to move forward on XYZ, whatever it was, by Friday. EOM. If you don't know what EOM means, it means end of message, okay? So I would send him these short one line just in the subject line. You didn't even have to open the email. Tell him what we're gonna do. If he didn't respond, was that a yes or a no? That was a yes in my book. By the way, when I wrote that first email like that, it was painful to write that because it wasn't my norm. I started going to his office, knock, knock, knock. He would say, what? What do you want? I would stand there in the doorway. I wouldn't even enter, and I would just say, hey, 3 things. 1, 2, 3. He'd say yes on 1, no on 2, and okay, I'm good with 3. All right, thank you, boom, and I'd be out. Things then started to get weird after I did about 5 of those emails and 5 of those meetings. I got an email, come by my office, ASAP. I'm like, uh-oh, day's come, I'm getting fired. I showed up, and he started picking my brain about stuff. Hey, Daren, what's going on over here? Why can't I get action over here? What is the deal? And I responded very quickly and said, look, I don't know, but I'll find out. And I would send him an email, subject line later that day, addressed, taken care of, or discovered the issue, here's what it is, boom, solved. As short as I could make it, that's what I wanted to do, because quite frankly, that's what he wanted. He wanted bullet points. He wanted action. Then things got even weirder. Now I'm his best advisor. He's using me all the time to try to figure things out and make things happen, whereas before I was useless to him. Then guess what? He broke down and started sharing about his personal life. One day I'm in his office and he goes, hey, Martin, come over here. You know, we make these decisions. He's like, hey, come over here. I want to show you the fish I caught this weekend. And before you know it, we're now talking about him going fishing and all of that stuff. And I'm thinking, wow, who is this bizarro character that we didn't think even existed? But it makes sense when you look at it from a social styles standpoint. When I was being asked with him, it would drive him nuts. When I was assertive with him, hey, this is what we need to do, it was perfect for him. When I focused on people first, hey, how was your weekend? Hope you had a great day. It was absolute backwards because he's at work and the only thing he can think about is getting the task done. We got to get back to work. What's going on here? Why are you giving me all this noise, right? So it was really a profound shift in our relationship. I started that project, never wanted to work with that man again, ended the project, cell phone. If I know he's in town and he was available, I'd say, hey, let's go grab a drink, let's go hang out. By the way, when he got in a different setting, like a happy hour, he became a fundamentally different person. And I had the opportunity to introduce him or reintroduce him to the team by getting him to tell those stories that he had shared with me in the work setting because I'd followed the right pattern. So you can see the power of this and how much of an impact it can have. I'll give you one more quick story. I showed up one time. The person that had brought me in said, hey, the plant manager's in his office. I saw his light on. You're meeting with him at 4. Why don't I go down and introduce you? I'm like, okay. So we go marching down there, get in his office. It's a huge cavernous office. I mean, the thing is really big. His desk is at the far end, the back corner, and it's facing the wall. Not because there was a window to some beautiful trees or some artwork on the walls, a bunch of tacked up graphs and Excel spreadsheets, because he didn't want people walking by and doing this. Hey, how's it going? He was focused. He wanted to be focused. So we walk in and I went, ooh, because the person who's bringing me in is a hardcore amiable. So amiables, by the way, have a bumper sticker that says, mean people suck, okay? They just think there's only one way to be, and that's to be, quote, nice. So we come in, she says to him, hey, Daren's got a meeting with you at 4. I saw your light was on. Of course his light was on, by the way. He'd been there since 5 in the morning trying to solve the problems of the world. She said, I saw your light was on, so I wanted to come introduce you. So he's like, okay. So he gets up and comes over. We shake hands, drop hands, and then she starts to talk about how fun the weekend was, and oh, but man, we got snowed in, and man, I can't believe it's snowing this late in the year. I'm watching the other person, and he is about to just bust a gasket, okay? I mean, his blood pressure's up, his face is getting red. I can see his fists, they're clenching down by his side. It's just not good. I realized that in his brain, he's going, I don't have time for this. So immediately, she caught a half a second of a breath, and I said, hey, sir, I know you're really busy. We'll let you get back to work. When I come back at 4 o'clock, I want to talk about your plans for this place and some ways I can help move them forward. He went, thank you, and released my hand and turned around. I turned to the person and told them, I think I actually put my arm around them, but this was many years ago when we could do that kind of thing. And I said, that was so sweet and thoughtful. How kind of you to think of bringing me down. She said, oh, I knew y'all were gonna love each other. Right? Now, some of you are thinking that's fake, that's false, disingenuous. 100% not true. Because think about it. Am I being fake when I go to Thailand if I speak Thai to someone who speaks Thai and only Thai? No, I'm communicating with them on their level. And what that little illustration shows is I went from driver to amiable in 1.15 seconds, and everybody was happy. It was a clear shift. Nobody really in the room besides me knew what had happened, but I just spoke one language and then switched to the other. So, by the way, if I go to dinner and I've got someone on my right that only speaks Korean, and I've got someone on my left that only speaks Portuguese, when I turn to the right, what am I going to speak? Korean if I speak it. When I turn to my left, what am I going to speak? Portuguese. That's just being smart. So when you learn the mechanics of this model, that's where the really fun part comes in, because it tells you how to act in every situation. So step one, first of all, you have to observe. And you have to think about, what style is this person? Now, how can you do that? You can see it with body language. You can see it in emails. You can see it in the way their desk is organized. I have a friend who's a hardcore expressive. He's also a client of mine. And when I go in, he's got all these little toys on his desk that all these vendors give him. And we start talking, he's spinning something or playing with something or building with a little magnet something. He's just very fidgety. He likes to stay active and keep things going. So when you see all those toys on his desk, you know, hey, this is probably kind of a fun-loving person. Versus if it's a desk that has all the family photos and every thank you card that they've ever received, and they left up their birthday stuff kind of thing, then you might know, hey, this is more of a people person. This is probably maybe an amiable expressive. So there's all sorts of tells. If someone says to you, hey, I want to talk about potentially hiring you for whatever it is, can you be at my office at 7:30 on Monday? That's pretty down and dirty. Chances are you're dealing with a task-first person and a tell-assertive person. If the email says something like, hey, I want to explore whether this is a good fit and, ask you some questions, get to know you a little bit, and let's see if this project makes sense for both of us. It'd be awesome. Plus, I've heard great things about you. I've been wanting to meet you. Can we get lunch on Thursday at 12? There's that cool little spot we should go check out. Definitely a people person, probably somewhere between amiable and expressive. So just that tells you a lot. If you respond to the first email, hey, 7:30 doesn't work for me Monday. Besides, I think it'd be really cool if we could hang out and spend some time together and get to know each other a little bit, because I always really like to know a lot about people before I jump in on a project to make sure I can do what you're looking for and all that. You're going to lose them. You're going to wear them out. That person's probably not going to bring you on at that point. So you've got to look for, who is this person? What's their style? What language are they speaking? Are they speaking driver? Are they speaking analytical, amiable, expressive? Are they ask? Are they tell? Are they task first or are they people first? Now remember, particularly with that one, you can tell a lot by their emotion. So by the way, a lot of people, when they do the full profile, they get their results back and they go into what I call full-on styles denial. I actually taught a class. We had just done the big reveal, opened up the stuff. Guy comes barreling out of the room. I was talking to a coworker of his. He comes barreling out and he interrupts us, tell number one, and says, this is not right. This thing says I'm tell-assertive. I am not tell-assertive. Connie, you know that about me, and points at his coworker. And I just started laughing. I said, that is about as tell-assertive as you could possibly be. He didn't know it. He couldn't see it in himself. If he was ask-assertive, it would have gone down much differently. He would have come over, he would have waited, not wanting to interrupt, and then he would say, hey, can I ask you a question? I'm a little confused because this thing says that I'm tell-assertive, but I've always considered myself to be ask-assertive. Connie, we work together. What do you think? Do you think I'm ask or do you think I'm tell? I'd be grabbing the paper saying that, everybody who filled this out got it wrong. I don't know. We must have gotten the names mixed up or something. So there's all sorts of little ways to tell what style a person is. Now, once you have a pretty good idea, and by the way, leave some room for error. If whatever adjustments you're making don't seem to be right, well, maybe it's been the initial assessment of what style they are that has thrown you off, and you need to go back. I always recommend asking the 2 qualifying questions rather than just trying to guess at the title. They're a driver, they're an analytical. What I want you to do is ask the 2 questions. Is this person more ask-assertive or more tell assertive. And then the other question is this person more controlled or more emotive? Are they task first, does it seem, or are they people first? All right, now let's put this into action, because here's what's going to happen. If you're dealing with someone who's tell assertive, do you want to be tell assertive or do you want to be ask assertive? Think about it. You want to speak their language, so you want to be tell assertive. If you're speaking with someone who is ask assertive, do you want to be ask assertive or tell assertive? You want to be ask assertive. If you're dealing with someone who is task first, people second, you want to lead with task. If you're dealing with someone who is people first, you want to lead with people. So let me demonstrate real quickly. I've got something that I want to make happen. I need a chair moved from here to over there. I'm in the room. Ziggy, my coworker, is in the room. I say to Ziggy, Ziggy, move that chair from there to over there. Are we okay? Is it going to create friction or tension between us? Well, we don't know, because what do we need to know? What style is Ziggy? If Ziggy is a driver, he's tell assertive and he's task first, we're not going to have any problem. Why? Because is that tell or ask? It's tell. Hey, I need you to move that chair from there to over there. Is it task or people? It's task. So boom, boom, I fulfill both of his languages, and he's going to have no problem doing that. If, on the other hand, he is an amiable, and I take that approach, Ziggy, move that chair from there to over there. He'll probably be compliant with it, but in his brain, he's going to be thinking, wow, so bossy, so aggressive. What, you get up on the wrong side of the bed? I don't like that about you. You're always telling me what to do. You're always being really aggressive, right? So instead, I would want to do it in a more ask assertive way and be people aware. So I would say, hey, Ziggy, do you mind? Could you give me a hand? Would you help me move that chair from there to over there? Now, it took a few more words, but now instead of Ziggy running through his brain how much he wants another job and doesn't want to work with me anymore, he's fully compliant. Yeah, sure, Darren. If I say something to a amiable that uses words like, hey, could you give me a hand? Would you mind? Could you please help me out? Or if I say something like, hey, Ziggy, man, I'm under a lot of pressure right now. Could you help move that chair from there to there? Pressure. Oh no, what's going on? How do I help you? If I say to a driver, hey, I'm under a lot of pressure right now. I need you to do X, Y. Their response is going to be, don't make your problems my problems, right? Because they're thinking, well, hey, we're all under pressure. Why does that mean I need to stop what I'm doing to do what you want me to do? So it shows up in very subtle but very real ways, and it gets translated into hundreds of conversations every day. So if you're dealing with someone who's tell assertive, you want to be tell assertive. If you're dealing with someone who's ask assertive, you want to be ask assertive. By the way, the only exception to that with the tell assertive people is if they're super angry and fired up, because if you start going tell back, it's just going to escalate it. You want to shift over into more, whoa, obviously something's upset you really bad. Let me understand. What's going on? What did I do? How can I help? And the reverse on the amiable or the analytical, you want to be more tell assertive to give them some clues. Because if you just say, are you okay? Is everything all right? Yeah, I'm good. It's fine. You're going to want to point out some things. Say, hey, you seemed upset in the meeting, and I don't know, you didn't seem like your normal happy self, and I'm wondering if something's bothering you. You know, it seems to be. But outside of that, ask assertive with ask assertive people, tell assertive with tell assertive people. If I go to an analytical and say, hey, the numbers on page 4 are all wrong, you need to fix them, tell assertive, task focused, in their brain they're going to be thinking, no, they're not. I worked very hard on that, and you just barely even looked at it. I bet you don't even understand what was in there. So instead, with an analytical, I would want to be task first, but ask assertive. Hey, I'm confused. It's probably me. You know, I'm not as thorough as you are, but it looks like things aren't adding up on page 4. Like I said, it's probably user error on my part. They're going to be grabbing the paper. Let me take a look at it. And then they're either going to go, whoa, I don't know how that happened, or they're going to explain, oh, yeah, okay, Darren, cool. But I've kept the relationship alive. There's always two kinds of tension in any interaction, in any relationship. There's task tension, and there's interpersonal or relationship tension. And what styles does, and by the way, they're inversely related. So if people are really focused on the task, then they're rolling, they're producing at a high level. But the minute you introduce interpersonal or relationship tension, the focus starts to shift from the task and starts to come to that person's irritation. So, quick hit, when you're dealing with drivers, you want to be short, you want to be concise, you want to be to the point. They like bullets. They like a quick hit overview. They don't want to hear, all sorts of stuff about it. Think about it. You probably had two kinds of math teachers, the one who just wanted you to put the answer and the other one who wanted to show your work, probably a more analytical. Drivers just want the answer. What's the answer? So you want to be non-emotive, because if you get real emotional and you get really driven out of your feelings in dealing with them, that is not going to go over well. You got to be pretty direct and matter of fact. And if you're not willing to go head to head with them and say, well, I think this is what we should do, then you're going to find that they are directing the situation every time. So if you take a situation and an amiable says to the driver, hey, I was thinking maybe just that we ought to think about including Tim on this, just a thought. All the driver has to do is just say, nope, we're not including Tim. And the conversation is over. If the amiable, who's learned how to tell assertive, says, hey, I think we need to include Tim on this, and the other person says, no, we're not, I don't want to include Tim. No, I think we're making a big mistake. We need to include Tim. Tim can bring a lot of value. Now the tennis ball is going back and forth across the court. When you're dealing with expressives, you can't come in all flat and just sort of unenthusiastic, because they're going to think you are boring. Where's your energy? You're such a drain to me. I don't get where's a little bit of life in there. So with expressives, you want to be more, expressive. And you want to deal with the people. Hey, how was your weekend? Now that's a real test for some of you to do that, just like it was a real test for me to write a one subject email, being very direct and abrupt without saying, hey, hope you're having a great day, right? So with expressives though, you want to bring that level of energy. You want to be assertive. They've got great ideas. You want to be bringing your great ideas and sharing that. If you're dealing with the amiables, now it's time to be very assertive and people focused. They want to know that you care about them as a person. They want to know that you're interested in them. And if you're like, come on, I don't have time for all that, you're going to sever that relationship and create a chasm between the way they feel about you and the way you would like for them to feel about you, if you're going to be able to work with them in a really effective manner. And with analyticals, don't be sloppy. You can't just kind of put something out on chicken scratch on a sticky note and hand it to them. Respect their need for order, their need for precision, and come in that way. When the expressive runs into the analytical's office and says, hey, you got to help me. I got to have something by 2 o'clock on this, it's just kind of, and they go, how long have you known about this? Oh, a couple of months, but I've been busy. I've been working on something else. Can you just throw something together? Give me some ideas off the top of your head. All language that is crazy making to an analytical. And the analytical is going to point at their sign, which I would almost bet is on their wall, that says, lack of preparation on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part, right? That's their sign. So you've got to approach each of these styles in a manner that is consistent with their language. Now, there's a lot of resources. There's videos. If you Google social work styles, if you Google Tracom, they've got a lot of materials. And I hope that you're going to do some further research. There are some books available on Amazon. By the way, first I've ever said this or committed to it, but I think I'm going to finally write my styles book in conjunction with Tracom and get that out there. But if you have questions and they haven't been answered in the presentation today, please reach out to me. We're going to do a follow-up video. We'd love to hear from you. I'm really easy to find, Daren, D-A-R-E-N, @DarenMartin.com. And send me your questions, your comments. how you're using it. What are the gaps? What are you not understanding? When you email me, I'm also going to send you a little one-pager breakout that shows the different styles and gives some recommendations and some things. It's a fun kind of thing with some stick figures and colors and all of that. So I want to keep the conversation going. I want to keep it alive. If you want to talk about, reach out to me if you want to talk about doing a more extended version of the training. Happy to do that as well. But I hope you will use this incredible tool, that you'll work with it. If you go out and you try it and it's not working, it's probably user error. It's probably been a gap in understanding the different styles and maybe reduced it too far. But I think you'll find some immense value as you make some shifts. I can't say enough about our partner, Truliant, who has just made this completely possible. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for investing in all the people that have watched this today. And I hope that it has a profound impact on them and that you get a lot of value out of it as well. Truliant really stepped up and helped make this event possible today. And I can't say enough about Holly and her team at GMA, at Guilford Merchants Association, because if it weren't for them, we wouldn't be doing this. We started talking months ago, and I remember our first phone call thinking, I really like this person and I really like this opportunity. So I'm glad it finally came to fruition. Please reach out. I wanted to extend long after this time, and I just hope you will use this in a way that does improve every single relationship you have, and that just fundamentally improves every interaction that you have moving forward. Thank you.